Hello NBA fans and welcome back to another video here on the NBA the week that was. Again, my apologies for not being able to continue my series where I was going to analyze the starting fives for all NBA teams. I just got caught up in my schoolwork and with college applications as a high school senior. It got a bit hectic, but now I'm back ready to analyze the preseason for the Hawks. So the NBA season starts in 2 days with the Milwaukee Bucks and the Brooklyn Nets, and I can't wait for that game. But today I'm going to be going over some takeaways I had from the preseason for the Atlanta Hawks. There were some promising things, some things that still could be worked on, but overall it was a good preseason for the Hawks and it was a good way to get ready for the long season ahead. Let's get right into it. So first off, it was just nice to see everyone healthy. I mean, the Hawks suffered a lot of injuries last year. DeAndre Hunter was out for a while, Bogdanovich was out for a while, Reddish was out for a while, so it was good to see all these guys back and healthy, ready to go. Even Capella got some games towards the end. The only guy that wasn't able to play was Onyeka Okongwu, who I'm really looking forward to having a breakout season, but he'll come later on in the season, but I still have a lot of stock in the guy. But speaking of everyone's health, everyone once they played, so in that last game that we played against the Miami Heat Griffin were playing their third string starters. It really was a blowout for the Hawks. We had our core starting five who's going to dominate the NBA this year. That's one of my big takeaways. We have one of the most elite starting fives in the NBA. You got Trae Young, who was looking great. He got injured in the first game, but came back, ended the preseason with 27 points and 15 assists. That rule change that everyone was talking about that was going to impact his game, it didn't look like it at all. He was still getting his floaters. He was still finding guys wide open who were cutting, making the right reads, just like Trae Young does. Bogdanovich is looking great. His jump shot is as good as ever. I mean, his three-point shot, especially from the corner, is like a layup. It just looks like it's going to go in every time. Then we have DeAndre Hunter, who, again, this is another side takeaway. He's really looking promising. Really promising. After a rusty game one, he came back in this game and was killing it. Trae was always finding him. He hit a couple of threes. He penetrated, had a monstrous dunk, and played elite defense, which he does so well. His potential as a two-way player for the Hawks is immense, and he has the ability to be the second best player on this team, and we need him to do that because of his value and the way he can guard all positions essentially and score at all three levels. There aren't many guys like him, and he can be so valuable to this Hawks team. Then John Collins continued his development. He had one of the most insane dunks, probably dunk of the year already. He's already obliterated Jarrett Allen in a dunk back in last season. This year, it was even better. He went so high to catch that lob from Sharif Cooper. That was beautiful to see. Even the Cavs bench was just like, oh my god, what happened? Because that was such a good dunk by Collins. But you can tell that after his contract renewal, which he's going to be with the Hawks for 5 years for $125 million, he just seems a bit more at ease. He's not playing with as much pressure, but it's allowing him to be more comfortable and continue doing the role and playing that role of that, just doing everything for the Hawks. Whatever the Hawks need him to do, Collins does it. And you can tell that with Onyeka Okongwu out for a while, Nate McMillan wants to use Collins as a small ball five, which I really like because that unlocks the offense of this lineup. If you have a lineup of Trae Young, Bogdanovich, Hunter, Herter, and Collins, all five guys can shoot. You can have Trae and Collins just having the paint to themselves because Hunter, Herter, and Bogdanovich require so much attention on the perimeter. It's a very good lineup for the Hawks, and if Collins can, he showed a couple of times that he can play good defense on NBA centers. If he can continue doing that throughout the year, it's a very good lineup for the Hawks. Capella came back in the last game, was looking as dominant as ever, just gobbling up offensive, defensive rebounds, blocking shots, and just making his presence felt in the paint, and that's what we need him to do. So ultimately, this is a very elite starting five with a guy like DeAndre Hunter, who has most improved player potential. And I'm just really looking forward to the starting five this year. Now, you can say this is a positive takeaway in a way, but there's also some negatives with it. It's Cam Reddish. Cam Reddish probably played the most minutes out of any Hawks player in our 4 preseason games. And he looked improved. He looked more confident. He played great defense. But it's still that inconsistency that's always been the thing with him in his 3 years in the NBA. Sometimes, if he's feeling it, he'll hit like 3 threes in a row and have a big dunk. Then he'll miss 5 shots, commit a turnover, and just be playing way too fast and not slowing the game down like it needs to be. So I hope that these mistakes can be ironed out before we get to the regular season in a couple of days. Obviously, that's what the preseason is for, but I think the coaching staff, McMillan included, obviously would have recognized this from Reddish and would have pushed him to just slow down, calm down, realize that the game doesn't need to go as fast as he's making it, and when he can find his shots, when Trey is supplying him with those looks, Reddish can, when he's on fire, he can be probably the best player on the floor, but that's just not as consistent as we need it to be. He played great defense. I think that's he's probably after Hunter our second best defender, but we need that consistency from him on the offensive end if he wants to have a meaningful impact on this team. Like him and Herder had a great preseason. He looks like a distributor, even better defender. We really need to get that guy extended, but him and Reddish coming off the bench with Gallinari, that's a great offensive lineup, and with Herder and Reddish's defensive abilities, it's also going to be good. DeLon Wright's looking good, feeding them, finding them with open passes. He's another guy who can really do everything, and he can play with Trey, which was a very shrewd pickup by Travis Schlenk because, as I said, he can do everything. He can distribute, he can shoot, he can defend. So our bench lineup of Wright, Reddish, Herder, Gallinari, and Onyeka when he comes back from injury is looking so promising. Also looking promising are the two rookies. Johnson, he had flashes just like Reddish, but he also looked inconsistent. Cooper played much better defense than I thought he would at his height. His playmaking is just superb. He's, I think, after Trey, our second best playmaker. He can really just find any open guy. It's all about, again, finding the consistency, but obviously him and Jalen Johnson have so much time given that they're rookies. And finally, Gorgie Deng, I think it's a good veteran pickup. He's going to provide some decent minutes when Onyeka's out, provide that veteran leadership. Same with Solomon Hill. These two guys are essentially like the coaches within the locker room who are still playing. He'll hit a three here or there. Dan can still use his he's a big guy. He's 7 foot, long wingspan. Just use his physical abilities to get a couple of buckets. But overall, this Hawks team is looking very elite at the starting five and very deep with a very just a very underrated bench with guys like Herder and Reddish coming off the bench. It's going to be a good year for the Hawks. So I think they're going to have fun while playing high-powered offense, quite solid defense if our guys stay healthy. And if our guys don't stay healthy, we have that depth. So it's going to be a good year for the Hawks. The preseason was a good look in. So let's see how it goes. And with that, I would like to conclude this episode of the NBA the week that was. I hope you're just as excited for this NBA season as I am, and especially for the Hawks. Let's see how they do. I'll catch you guys on my next episode here on the NBA the week that was. See ya.